Your mind doesn't go blank because it's empty. It goes blank because it's full. The people who always have something to say aren't thinking faster than you, they're thinking less. And once you see what's actually eating the space where your words used to be, the freeze stops feeling like a personality flaw and starts looking like a bandwidth problem. There's a name for the thing eating it. I call it the second screen. While you're talking, you're also running a live feed of yourself, how your face looks, whether that last sentence landed, whether they're bored already. And that feed runs on the same power supply your words come from. Today you're getting the mechanics of it, the 4 ways it shows up, and 1 sentence you can say in the second you go blank. Welcome to Unspoken. From the outside, you probably look fine, calm, a little mysterious, which people sometimes mistake for confidence. You nod at the right moments. You laugh half a second after everyone else because you were busy. Underneath, you're running a search, not for words, you have words. You're searching for a sentence good enough to justify the fact that you're standing there. Something with a bit of spin on it, something that makes the group glad you opened your mouth. And the longer you search, the more the search itself becomes the problem. You're not afraid of talking. You've been talking your whole life. You're afraid of saying something flat in front of people with nowhere to put your hands. That's a different fear, and it deserves a different fix than the one you've been handed. So here's something you can use tonight, before we get into why any of this happens. The next sentence you say only has to be 10 words long, and it does not have to be interesting. That's the whole rule, 10 words, boring is allowed. It's louder in here than I expected. I have no idea who half these people are. That's the 3rd time someone's mentioned the parking. Nobody's writing that down. That's the point. The instant you drop the requirement that your sentence be good, you cancel the search that's freezing you because there's nothing left to search for. Flat sentences are cheap, and cheap sentences keep the conversation open, which is the only job they have. That's the surface version. It treats the symptom. What actually switches the second screen on sits deeper, and it isn't what you've been told. Picture a kitchen at a party, not the living room where the party is actually happening. The kitchen, where you've been standing for 11 minutes because there's a counter to lean on and a purpose to holding a drink. The cup's gone warm in your hand. You've read the same magnet on the fridge 4 times. Someone comes in for ice, sees you, and says the thing everyone says. So what do? And nothing arrives. You know your job. You could describe your job to a doctor, a landlord, your mother. But right now there's a gap where the answer goes, and inside the gap you can hear the fridge running, and you have become aware of your own eyebrows. You say something eventually. It comes out clipped like a form you're filling in. They say, "Oh, nice," and get their ice and leave. Then you replay it for the rest of the night. Here's the part that would surprise you. That silence you're still turning over at 1 in the morning was about 1.5 seconds long. From the outside, it read as a person taking a breath. In the mid-90s, 2 clinical psychologists, Clark and Adrian Wells, put together a model of what actually happens in the socially anxious mind, and the key move in it is small and brutal. When anxiety rises in a social situation, attention flips direction. It stops going outward toward the people in front of you and turns inward. You start processing yourself as a social object, building a picture of how you look from over there, and then reacting to the picture instead of the room. So you're not in the conversation anymore. You're watching a rendering of yourself in the conversation. Now stack that on what Roy Baumeister found studying people who come apart under pressure. When you start consciously monitoring a skill you already have, you don't sharpen it, you wreck it. Cyan Baylock built a career on this, on the free throw you've made 10,000 times and missed the one time you narrate your own elbow. Paralysis by analysis, she calls it. And the mechanism underneath is that monitoring eats working memory. Working memory is the ceiling here. Alan Baddeley spent decades showing how small that workspace really is. A handful of items held for a few seconds, and everything you're consciously doing has to fit inside it. So run the math on what you're asking it to hold. Track what they just said, plan what you'll say, watch your own face. Grade the last thing you said, monitor whether they seem bored. There's no room left for the thing you actually wanted, which was a word. That's the second screen. Your head isn't empty, it's maxed out. Listen to that again. The freeze isn't a shortage, it's a traffic jam. Which is why the advice you've been given makes it worse. Just ask them questions. Just be curious about people. You've tried that. And now you know why it backfires, because a question is one more thing to compose on a system that's already out of memory. But the freeze doesn't show up the same way for everybody. There are 4 versions, and they don't respond to the same thing. The first one is the spotlight blank. You're in a group of 5. You've been comfortable this whole time, following along, dropping in the occasional "yeah, exactly." Then someone says your name or asks what you think, and 5 faces rotate toward you at once. Gone, all of it. What happened is that your role changed with no warning. Listening costs almost nothing. Being watched costs everything, because the second the attention lands, your brain hands a huge chunk of capacity over to modeling what those 5 people are seeing right now. The tell for this one is the timing. Your best line shows up about 40 seconds later once they've moved on and you're safe again. It was never missing. It was cued behind the monitoring, waiting for the monitoring to finish. And watch what you do for the rest of that night. You get quieter in that group, not louder, because some part of you has quietly decided the safest move is to not be looked at a second time. That's how one bad 4 seconds turns into a reputation for being the quiet one. The second one is crueler because it punishes you for preparing. You've got a thing to say, it's good, you know it's good, you checked. Now you're waiting for a gap, tracking the rhythm of the conversation, watching for the pause, holding the sentence steady in your head the entire time. The gap opens, and the sentence is gone, not fuzzy, gone. You didn't forget it, you spent it. Holding a line intact while simultaneously tracking 3 people's speech is about the most expensive thing you can ask a working memory to do, and something had to be dropped. It dropped the thing you were gripping hardest, which feels personal but isn't. If you're the one who walks out of conversations thinking I had something, I had a whole thing, this is your version. Third, the admiration blank. This one's selective, which is exactly why people mistake it for a character flaw. You're fine with the barista, fine with your coworkers, completely fine with the friend of a friend whose opinion you have never once considered. Then you're standing in front of someone you respect, or someone you'd like to be liked by, and you turn into an unusually quiet person with nothing on their mind. Nothing about your language changed. What changed is that the score started counting. Stakes go up, monitoring goes up with them, and monitoring is what's eating the bandwidth. And you can feel the asymmetry while it's happening, which is its own small humiliation. You know you're handing the worst version of yourself to the one person you'd have wanted to meet the real one. Which means the people you go blank around are, almost without exception, the people you most wanted to talk to. That isn't bad luck. That's the mechanism working exactly the way it's built. And the fourth one is the sneakiest, because it happens afterward. You say something, it lands a little wrong, or you decide it did. A joke gets a polite laugh instead of a real one, and you're gone, physically still there, still nodding, but you've left to review the footage. Then somebody asks you a question and you have no idea what the last 30 seconds contained, so you go quiet, and the quiet feels like more evidence, and the loop tightens. And it can run for days. You'll be brushing your teeth on a Thursday, and a Tuesday sentence comes back at full volume, exact wording, and you wince at your own reflection over a comment that landed on absolutely nobody. Here's what makes it absurd. You left a live conversation to analyze a moment nobody else in the room registered. While you were reviewing, they were talking. The only person who kept the receipt was you. Now here's the turn I want you to take out of all this. The freeze is a bill. It's what you get charged for caring about what the other person is experiencing. Think about who doesn't go blank. It isn't always the socially gifted. Often it's the person who has never once wondered whether they're being boring, who talks straight through a room without checking whether anyone came with them. They're not free of the second screen because they beat it. They're free of it because they never installed one. You installed one. You installed it because you're tracking constantly whether the people around you are okay, engaged, included. That is not a defect. That's the raw material of every person who's ever been described as easy to be around. The wiring is right, the allocation is wrong. And you're grading on a curve nobody else in the room is using. Erica Boothby and her colleagues ran a set of studies on what they named the liking gap. Strangers have a conversation, then rate each other and themselves. Over and over, people underestimated how much the other person liked them. And the mismatch was widest for the people most convinced they'd been awkward. Your pause was a second and a half. Their memory of it is nothing. Their memory of you is that you seemed all right. You're not bad at talking, you're just the only person in the room grading it. So here's the deep version, the one the 10-word rule was standing in for. The 3 steps: look out, not in. Step 1, catch the screen. It has a signature, and once you know the signature, you can't miss it. You're picturing yourself. You have an image of your own face, your own posture, the way you look from 3 feet away. Nobody has that image while they're genuinely absorbed in something. So if you can see yourself, you've already left the room. Step 2, put your attention on something physical outside your body. This is the whole trick, and it's more literal than it sounds. The pattern on somebody's jacket, what's on the table, how many people are actually in here, the song that's playing, and whether you know it. Step 3, say the thing you noticed out loud, then hang a short question off the end of it. This song is older than everyone in this room. Do you know it? That's the tool, that's all of it. And the reason it works isn't motivational, it's structural. You cannot look outward and grade yourself at the same time. They run on the same channel. Attention is the only real resource in this whole problem, and every second you spend actually noticing something outside yourself is a second the second screen doesn't get. You're not trying to think of something interesting. You're trying to get your attention out of your own head and back into the room, where the conversation is still going on without you. Do that enough times and the screen stops booting up on its own. Go back to that kitchen. Same counter, same warm drink, same person coming in for ice, so what do? And the pause still happens. It doesn't go away and it doesn't need to. But this time, instead of searching, you look at the fridge you've been staring at for 11 minutes and you say that magnet has been bothering you all night. They laugh. They tell you whose apartment it is. 2 minutes later, you're talking about something neither of you planned. Nothing impressive got said, nothing needed to be. Because a life doesn't get built out of good sentences. It gets built out of the conversations you stayed inside long enough for something to happen. Every friendship you have started with an exchange so ordinary that neither of you can remember a word of it. The words were never the point, staying was. So tell me which one is yours. The spotlight blank, the rehearsal blank, the admiration blank, or the aftershock. I read these, and all 4 of them turn up in the comments in roughly equal numbers, which should tell you something about how alone you aren't. And if this made the thing in your head feel less like a flaw and more like a mechanism, subscribe. There's more of this here, and I'd like you around for it.